Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to cover my latest asset, Level Designer. This asset is pretty simple and straightforward, but also provides complex and powerful output. As the name implies, this asset is meant to help you with level design. Once you have it in your project, everything you need will be right here. In a blank level, let's drag in our BP room. If you look at the details panel, you'll see a massive list of settings you can modify, along with some cool functions like generating a hallway, a four-walled room, and more. Now, these settings are awesome, but I really hate that they're all vertical, so let's right-click on this editor utility widget and run it. Now we get this neat window with all the variables grouped together in a more accessible manner. And with that, we are ready to start building. So we have our room, and I think it's a good starting block. So let's hit this plus button to add another room. This one is the exact same, but let's start tweaking some things. Let's make it like a doorway. So I'm actually going to move it over to the left a bit, drag this floor handle, and move it over. Next, I'll click this door front button, and now I'll drag the door handle to the middle. Now, this doorway looks good, but it's way too small for like a grand entrance, so let's scroll to the door settings and let's change the width to 500 and the height to 700. Let's play test that, and yeah, that looks good. But I don't want to have to play test every time to see the scale of everything. So I'm going to set player to true. Now we get this dummy player, and let's switch this from center of room to front door. And this looks pretty good. Another cool thing is that now you can click on the room and you'll see a preview camera of what it would look like. So let's continue building. If we want to adjust the room size, we can click this floor handle and adjust it. So I think right here looks good. And I think we need walls. So I'm going to check walls right here. And by default, it comes with windows that mirror. So I'm going to adjust this left one to be somewhere in the middle. And I think like that looks good. But I want to change the size of these windows. So I'm going to scroll down to window right here. And if we notice, mirror is on. So whatever I change here for the width and the height, it's going to reflect here as well. But say I wanted the right window to have its own settings. Well, I can just uncheck mirror here. And now this right window will move independently and also have its own settings. We could even remove the right window, but keep in mind that if you have borders on the doors or windows and you're trying to remove them, it's not enough to simply just remove them because that border is still going to be there. So what you need to do is also remove the border so you don't have that little stub. Okay, so let's close this room up by adding a backdoor. And I'm going to move this all the way to the right side. So I think that looks good. Now let's spawn another room. And by the way, rooms spawn at this blue little ball here. And since our door is all the way here on the right, let's change the spawn location from origin to center of room. That way it's a little bit closer to the door. Now I'm going to click add again. And I'm going to increase the floor size so that the door is in the room. Now, instead of manually building the room by adding one wall at a time, let's use one of these room presets here. I'm going to use room open so that we can see the inside of the room. Room closed will spawn the same room except with the ceiling. So I don't want these windows. I'm going to scroll down and click this X windows and it's going to remove them. But if you notice, the doorway seems messed up now. The reason is because our room function adds 4 walls, including the front door. So we can simply fix this by clicking X door front. And there we go. That looks so much better. But this room looks just way too small. So let's drag this forward and make it more like a hallway. All right, now let's change the direction. Levels going purely straight get boring pretty quick. So let's click this -90 degrees or left button. And just like that, now we have our rooms spawning towards the left. Notice that the back door is colored yellow. I put this setting in here by default so that you could tell which direction the next room will spawn. Also as a way to guide testers if you decide to do a run through. Alright, so I'm going to make this room bigger by expanding it. But if you notice, now our left wall is missing. If we look at the bools, they're all here. So how do we fix it? Well, let's think about this for a second. This is the left wall. We can tell because the left window handle is right here. So let's scroll down to our window settings. And we can actually see that our left window is disabled. But I'm going to direct your attention to something else. If we look at the wall settings under type, we have right only. So if we switch this to left and right, we now have our left wall. But we have the same door issue. And that's because our width and height are 0, 0. So I'm going to click the previous room and check the back door size. It's 300 by 500. So I'm going to click back here and set that as the width and height. Let's enable our left window and I'm going to disable mirror. Now I'm going to modify the right window a little bit. And let's quickly preview each room with the player to see if the rooms are a good size. That looks good. This one looks good. And that looks pretty good. If anything, we can drag this one just a tiny bit. Alright, I like what we got so far, but let's make things even more interesting. Let's add some verticality to our level by clicking add and then stairs up. I like to add a floor right before the stairs because otherwise you just get stairs right into the doorway and I feel like that looks bad. I'm going to assume that this whole area is still indoors though. So I'm actually going to make this a hallway and I'm going to add walls to our stairs. I'm going to add a player preview to take a look and I actually think we should add some more stairs. So if we click here, we can see our stairs top handle and we can just drag this out. Okay, so I think that looks good. I want to point out that the stairs will increase in count while maintaining a good structure, so they'll still look good. And also, the spawn point moves with the stairs. Our walls aren't going all the way though, so let's increase the floor so that it matches. Okay, that height looks good, and now I'm going to change directions, but this time to the right. So I'm going to click plus 90 right, and now we got a room. Let's keep on building. Let's adjust this by adjusting our floor here. That looks good. All right, so let's hit add. I'm going to drag this room to the left and increase our floor size. That looks good. Let's make this a full room. I'm going to drag our front door right there. And to get rid of these competing textures here, I'm going to simply reduce the thickness of our current room's walls to like 5. Yeah, that looks good. Now, I'm going to add a tiny bit more before we wrap this part up. I'm going to make this area have multiple rooms. At the moment, there's no instant way to do that, so here's how we can achieve it. Let's X the back door and hit add. And I'm going to drag this all the way over here. And I'm going to click the 90-degree transforms twice. So now we've rotated this a full 180 degrees. And I want this room's right side to be exactly at the halfway point of this room. So if I quickly check over here, I see that our room is 1070. And that's kind of a hard number to go and calculate on the fly. So I'm going to adjust this to 1000. Perfect. So we know the halfway point is exactly at 500. So I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to drag until this is 500. Perfect. So now we know that this room ends exactly at the halfway point of this room. Okay, so I'm going to close up this room. So I'm going to set the width and the height to 0 with no border. There we go. I don't want the right window here, so I'm going to disable this. I'm going to turn off mirror and turn off the right window. Turn off the border. Perfect. This window looks a little too big, so I'm going to adjust this. That looks good. And now I'm going to actually add another room over here, and I'm going to use the plus 90 degrees to the right. There we go. And we're going to close this room up. And now we need to make a doorway right here. So that's going to be with the right window. I'm going to turn off mirror, turn off glass, and now I'm just going to modify it so that it's a doorway. And I think that looks good. So let's do a -90 to the left. Since it's intersecting here, I'm going to adjust our floor. There we go. From here, let's add a stairs down. And we're almost at the floor. So what I'm going to do is get our stair base and pull it down. Then I'm going to get our stairs top and pull it outwards. It's actually going to be inversed because it's inverted. There we go. That looks good. I don't want this floor cutting in here, so I'm going to disable that. And there we go. But if you notice, the spawn point doesn't look that good. So I'm going to switch this to use handle, grab the spawn location, and adjust it. Now let's add, and there we go. That looks good. We actually left a little gap here in the walls. So let's click this room and just drag it out. And that looks good. We could probably even move it a tiny bit more. There we go. And this looks great. Let's preview these rooms. That looks good. Yeah, I think that looks really good. So let's actually give this a run through. I'm going to remove all my player dummies. And let's give this a run. But we have a little bit of an issue right here. If you notice, the issue doesn't even seem like the doorway is too short. It's actually that there's glass here in the window. So let's click on this. It's for the left window. And let's remove the glass. But let's also correct the window. Let's play this again. But let's start closer. Looks much better. And look, this window looks like we could be previewing an area that the player is moving towards. Maybe we could have a collectible or a secret thing here. And yeah, that feels really good. And just like that, we made a pretty solid starting area. That is the best looking blockout I've ever done. And this was painless. We didn't have to waste our time cutting out geometry for doors and windows or having to click and drag a bunch of cubes because we decided that we wanted a stairway. This was really easy. But okay, this is great. But now your PC is breaking down because Geometry Script is actually kind of intensive. So let's use another nice feature that this asset comes with. We're gonna bake out this entire thing we just built. Let's click this gold button and now all our rooms are selected. From here, we're gonna click Generation. This may take a couple of seconds depending on your computer. It took me about 5 to 10. And if we notice, our content browser jumped to the generated rooms folder. And here we can see a bunch of static meshes. Each of these is an iteration from room 1 to room 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 plus 3, and so on until the very last one, which is highlighted here. Now, this is supposed to copy over here to the final folder, but it doesn't seem to be working. It's kind of random when it does, but let's go ahead and do it. Because now we can delete all of these. If you need them, keep them, but just move them to another folder because in order for generation to work, you want to have this cleared out for each new generation. Otherwise, they're going to become part of it. All right, so now that we moved it, let's name it something memorable. I'm just going to name it tutorial and let's try it out and see how it is. I'm going to move our player over here. Uh-oh, there's an issue with collisions. The good thing is this is actually really easy to fix. If you double click into it and under details, search complex and change collision complexity to use complex collision as simple. Save that. Now if we play it again, the collisions work just as we expected. So now if you were to run this in a different level, or if you were to delete this version of the room over here, you would get better performance because this is a static mesh. So to give you a brief overview of what exactly is happening with the generation, it pretty much works like this. As I said, once you have finished building, you want to select all your room assets and then hit generation. So first, it generates each individual section of each room. So think like the front door, the floor, the walls, the windows. So then it spawns it in with their existing transform. From there, it merges them together and it throws them into the rooms folder. And it does that for each individual room one at a time, one by one, until finally it has all of them done, and then it combines all the rooms into one mega room. If you notice, the pivot point here kind of looks like it's off. It's like it's incorrect. You would expect it to be here, but it's actually correctly at 0, 0 because it's looking at this thing like a giant box. But yeah, that's pretty much everything there is to know about these essential functions. These two buttons right here, this one deletes everything in the meshes folder, and then the one below it deletes everything in the rooms. I have this button here, so it'll delete all of it. Just make sure that you don't have them in the world, just to avoid any issues. So I'm gonna hit delete, and it takes a little bit of a while, not too long. Like on my end, I think it takes like maybe 30 seconds because it is loading each one of the assets up and deleting them. However, it's just not asking you for confirmation beforehand. But see, now it's all cleared out. So if I were to do this room, for example, and do generation, we have the meshes for each part of the room. We have the room here. And like I said, it's at 0, 0 properly. And see, here it duplicated over. And I guess it just is able to do it for smaller ones. But yeah, if you've noticed, as we were building this out, you can adjust things like the floors and the materials and all that. But the cool thing is you can actually adjust those same values even after the object's been consolidated. Granted, it's not each individual layer, but if you have different ones for certain parts, you're able to adjust it. I have the name of most of the colorful materials as PT for prototype. So if you were to do like red for all the floors, green for the walls, very Christmassy. And if you notice, the walls that we did for 90 degrees, they spawn with the doors yellow. Well, those are here, so you can change those specifically. Same for the glass and everything else. I feel like that's another really cool feature. You're not bound to setting whatever colors and materials over here. You're actually able to do it afterwards as well. All these variables here are pretty much the ones that you would see here. I just have it organized because I like to be able to see multiple categories at once. We have the walls override. So by default, you can set the color for each wall individually, minus the 2. At the moment, it's just both of these will change to whatever one color. But say you did have it. This one's green, this one's yellow, and the back door was blue. If you were to set a color here under walls override, but say we put it to green, it's going to override all of them to green. And then if you clear it, they're all back to their old color. I also have other custom buttons. We've seen the stairs up, stairs down. I have one for ramp up and then ramp down. I also have like little bridges. So if you were to do a stair bridge, it does the steps for you. So it's stair, floor, floor, and then stair. And then same for this one. This one just ramp, floor, floor, and then a ramp. I also have this cool one that I built out, which is called stairwell. And it's, as you would imagine, it's a nice little stairway that goes up. And if you wanted to make your own, you can just open up the editor blueprint here, and you can see where I have the build actions. They're basically custom functions that have the build instructions inside of them. So like this is a stairs up. Stairs up is right here. And you can take a deep dive into that. The stairwell is basically the looping instructions of stairs up, add 90 degrees, add another stairs up, another 90, and so on. So another cool tip is that Control Z works with, I think, just about all these buttons here. So you're able to undo any of the actions that you may have done. One workflow tip I'd like to give is if you notice, say you build out this entire thing and you build out another structure. Well, if you select all rooms, you're going to select this one and your second one. And if you're going to combine them all, that's great. But say you want to consolidate this one and not the other one. Well, when you select all rooms, you're kind of stuck with that where you have them all selected and you have to either unselect them all or find a way to select only the ones you want to modify. Well, if you select all of your current structure, you can group them And so now if I were to place another room, and if I do the stairwell again, and say I want to bake out just the stairwell, I can select all rooms. I'm going to do control click, and now I just have this one selected. So if I were to generate this out, now it's only going to generate this one and not both of these together. But yeah, that's pretty much it, everyone. I hope you found this helpful. If anybody has questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm really excited for this asset. I feel like anytime I've level designed, it's just been a mess. I don't really know what I'm doing. I feel like this gives me very clear structure and a lot of ideas, and things are properly scaled. You also have a lot of detailed information, things update accordingly. Like if I have my floor size, I can tell exactly how big the room is horizontally as well as vertically, even the height too. So if I were to make this floor go up, I know that this is 310 in height. And then if you add stairs too, it's actually going to add that, because now it's going to modify the spawn point to be where the stairs are, and it's going to add this height, the height of this floor, plus these stairs. So yeah, this is a really powerful tool. I feel like blocking out is always a very difficult thing to do, and now you are able to do it with ease. Adjust your windows, you can remove the glass, and now this is a doorway. This is no longer bound to just being a window. So yeah, if anybody has questions, just let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.